So every living being in this world is made up of the same 5 elements. When we do a consultation with a person, we look at what their dosha actually is, like what is their body type. We also call it a body type, or dosha is. And once we know that, we also get to know what are the things that they potentially might be more prone to sort of getting, like in terms of symptoms or diseases, what are things they might be more prone to. I honestly felt like I was 10 years young. I feel like a whole different person.
Welcome everybody from Curious to Connect. I'm Martin, and today our guest is the Ayurvedic practitioner Sona Sood. Hello Sona, how are you?
Hey Martin, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be on your show.
Thank you. So let's get right in. Just to begin with, to explain to people they don't know at all what's Ayurveda, could you explain us a little bit what's Ayurveda?
Yeah, of course. Ayurveda is made up of 2 words, Ayur and Veda. And Ayur means life, and Veda means science. Put together, it means the science of life. So Ayurveda gives us this beautiful framework in which if we lead our lives, we can actually prevent disease and cure disease as well. So Ayurveda originates from ancient India, and it's a science that's more than 5,000 years old. So it's been well tried and tested for many, many years. And the amazing part is it's as relevant today in today's modern lifestyle as it was 5,000 years ago. And it's based on very holistic, it's based on holistic science. So it's an incredible, incredible science.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Just before we go deeper into the Ayurveda and what you're offering today in South Australia and worldwide, because I think you're doing a lot of things online as well, I would just like to always know a little bit more about the guests. So what their background, where they come from, how was their childhood, are the Ayurveda part of your life already there? What can you tell us a little bit more about you?
Yeah, sure. So I live in Australia. I've been here for almost 30 years now. But originally I'm Indian, of Indian background. My parents are from India, and I grew up in between India and Africa. So I had a very interesting childhood, but I have spent some time in India as well. So I mean, Ayurveda was around us. It wasn't like I didn't study it as like a specific science when I was younger, but it was around us in the way we led our lives. So, it was a very traditional lifestyle. Everything was cooked at home, made fresh. There were certain rules or, food rules that my parents or my mum and my grandmother followed, which we were kind of told as we went along. We didn't always understand it well. But so it was there in the culture. So it wasn't like separate. It wasn't like we're doing this thing Ayurvedically. It was just part of who we were, part of how we ate, part of how we did things because we lived with the seasons. We ate with the seasons. We changed our routines based on the seasons. And that's what Ayurveda is all about.
Yeah. And when you, what were you doing? Like any of your grandparents, parents were practicing Ayurveda? Do you remember any dish, anything particular that now you are Ayurvedic practitioner and that kind of really resonate with it, even if you had a little bit in a mix?
Yeah. So like my family wasn't Ayurvedic doctors in that sense, but as I said, Ayurveda was practiced on a daily basis. Small things from like there were certain foods that we call are incompatible or viruddhahar in Ayurveda. So that was just part of our daily lives, that we weren't allowed to have certain foods with certain things, or at certain time of the day we won't be allowed to eat certain things, or even like we do a abhyanga or a self oil body massage. So it was just something we just did every day as kids. There would be oil in the bathroom and we'd do a little quick oil massage. We were just taught that from a young age. So as I said, it was very integrated into life. So I didn't know it was like I was following Ayurveda. It wasn't like that. It was just like, this is how we live life, but because I've lived in different countries, I kind of realized later on that not everyone does the same thing. So then I came to understand that, okay, it's different. We learn things differently.
Very good.
Yeah.
And before you decide to start Ayurveda, what were you doing before that?
So I've had a few different lives, Martin. I was an engineer. I studied science and engineering. So I worked in IT and telecoms for around 10 years. And then after I had my children, I actually did professional photography. So I had my own portrait studio for 8 years when my kids were younger. And then I sort of embarked on a very holistic health journey, first for myself. And then I fell in love with Ayurveda and the common sense approach to how things are done in Ayurveda. I loved that so much that I then started studying it properly, professionally. And then I became an Ayurvedic consultant and then an Ayurvedic practitioner as
So
well. And
what
I've done lots of training in India as well.
so what made you change? You say you look for your own health first. Is that how
Mm,
you end up to go to Ayurveda? So how Ayurveda came to you, like as a
yeah.
passion for you to decide to be a practitioner today? What was the
Yeah.
story behind it?
I think so. I've always been interested in health from a very young age. So I wanted to be a doctor when I was growing up. So things happened, and I didn't take that career path. But excuse me, health has always been very like interesting to me, like understanding human biology and how the body works. So it's always been like a very interest, like big interest of mine. And then once I started having kids and all, then nutrition became a big focus of like, how to eat well, how to eat healthy and all of that. So it kind of, that interest has been there for a long time, for forever pretty much, but kind of more formalized it when I was just going through some health struggles and health issues of my own. And then I sort of, there was a time when I was very confused with food, right? Because I was always interested in nutrition, but then when you start looking or reading up stuff, and thank God this was before social media, so I didn't have that bombardment of social media, but even just researching stuff, there were so many contradicting diets that were good for you, that were healthy. So there was low carb, there's paleo, there's Atkins diet, there's like gluten-free, dairy-free, FODMAP, so much out there. And at one point I started to get quite stressed and confused because I was like, which one should I do? And if I do this, it goes against the principle of that diet. And if I do that, it goes against the principle of that diet. So my head was spinning a bit. And then I came across Ayurveda and I just completely loved it because it's so simple and it's literally eating, things that are meant for your body, that are fresh, that are natural, and a lot of like psychology behind a lot of things as well. So it just made so much sense to me. And first I just went and did some courses just for my own interest to use in my own life. And then when I really started enjoying it and loving it, I was like, I'm going to study it and I'll see how I go. Maybe I'll just study it for myself. But then when I started studying it and then we started doing case studies and I saw how it affected people and helped people so quickly, how they got great results, that I started went, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, this is an incredible system and more people should hear about it and learn from it.
For first, it was really you join Ayurveda just for your own to learn more about your health and be focused more on nutrition, and then you discover a little bit more deeper into what Ayurveda is. Where did you do your study? Because there is some people that will be watching this video and they'll be interested in Ayurveda, but they probably
Mhm.
don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Would you have any place you recommend to go? Or even if you have short courses, what would you recommend? And then
Yeah.
you actually jump and do which study you've done actually also.
Yeah. So I honestly started it more of like interest for myself. So the first 1 year I was just exploring. Basically, there was a practitioner locally who offered some courses locally. This was pre-COVID when people actually met in person to do things. So I went and did some courses with them. But also I started looking up things online. I bought a couple of, simple books that you could follow at home. So that's kind of how my interest began. And then I just started looking at more and more articles online, reading about things. Some of the technical terms you hear in Ayurveda, I didn't understand them. So I started reading up about them. So it kind of started from like just for interest for myself from there. And then I actually signed up for a proper diploma. So I did I did a diploma in Ayurveda to become an Ayurvedic consultant from a place in Brisbane called AIAS. And then after the diploma, I had a break for a year. And I've also been to India twice to do a detox that's run by Ayurvedic centers, and also to do training in India as well on specific things. And then I had a break for a year. And then I also did my advanced diploma after that. So I've done a fair bit of studying in Ayurveda as well. And there's just so much to learn. It's such an incredible science. And the more you learn it, the more you realize, like, once you follow the principles, how things just fit in beautifully.
Oh, very good. And so now discussing about Ayurveda,
Mhm.
what can you tell us about the different doshas? Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So I think doshas in Ayurveda are such a building block and such a basic thing to understand. But I'm not joking when I say it's actually very difficult also to understand what a dosha is. So it took me months and months to actually really get the full concept behind what a dosha is. So I'm going to try to explain it in 2 minutes, but it is a slightly tricky concept to understand, but it's like the basis of everything in Ayurveda. Ayurveda is based on the five elements theory, right? So the elements are air, space, fire, water, and earth. When we combine two elements together, that makes what's called a dosha. So I'll tell you there are 3 doshas. There's no English translation for the word dosha, so you have to just bear with me with these words. So dosha, there's 3 doshas. The first one is Vata. So Vata dosha is made up of air and space. The second dosha is Pitta, which is made up of fire mostly and a little bit of water. And then the third one is called Kapha, which is made up of earth and water. So I want to give you a practical example to understand this. So every living being in this world, starting from a blade of grass, every living thing, not just human, but every living thing in this world, from a blade of grass to a fish to an insect to an elephant to a human being, is made up of the same 5 elements. The difference is going to be in the ratios of these elements. So for example, let's take the example of, say, cucumber and popcorn. So cucumber is made up of a lot of water element, some earth element because there's some flesh as well, and a bit of space element. Now, when you look at popcorn, on the other hand, popcorn is made up of a lot of space and air element, right? Because it just blows up and it traps a lot of air in it. There's hardly any water content. So we can see that, and there'll be a little bit of the earth element because it does have some body. So everything will have all the 5 elements, but can be in vastly different ratios. Same thing for the animal kingdom as well. So as humans, we're all made up of the same 5 elements, but it will be in very different ratios. So someone who is, say, a Vata dominated person will have a lot of air elements. So they'll have a lot of the characteristics of Vata or characteristics of air, whereas a Pitta person will have much more fire in them. So they will have much more characteristics of fire. So that could come up as things like they could be very passionate. They can be very people who are very what we call type A personalities. They're very single focused. They're motivated to do things. They just are on the go, 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 go always. So the different elements play out in nature and they play out in us as human beings. And that's what makes Ayurveda so unique is when we do a consultation with a person, we look at what their dosha actually is, like what is their body type. We also call it a body type or dosha is. And once we know that, we also get to know what are the things that they potentially might be more prone to sort of getting, like in terms of symptoms or diseases, what are things they might be more prone to. And then we look at what the imbalance of the body is in terms of these different elements. And then we look at correcting the imbalance, because that's how we can get that really deep, like root cause healing, is when we correct the imbalance. That's when everything starts to fall into place. So I hope this makes sense. And it is a slightly tricky concept to understand.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think that was a good example to explain.
Thank you.
When you were just talking about when you're having clients, can you let us through a little bit, like how do you do to find out their dosha,
Yeah.
for example, and the imbalance one? What's the
Yeah.
process?
Sure. So I actually have a free quiz on my website called the Dosha Quiz, and I'll send you the link for that. So with that one, you can go and do the actual quiz yourself. And that gives you the body type or your prakriti. But that body type is a body type you're born with. That's not telling you what the state of affairs is now, right? So when a person is born, they're born with a certain body type, which is their characteristics or their personality or their body, how their body will behave in a certain way. And as we go through life, various things like especially life experiences, what sort of food we eat, what sort of sicknesses we get as a child, how our family life is, whether we were born into a very beautiful, loving family or whether there was any sort of issues growing up, what experiences we've had in life. All these sort of go on to what we call is imbalance the body, which means that whatever dosha you're born with is not going to be like that, because you could be getting extra of something or you could be deficient in a dosha. So if that makes sense. So basically, your body might start getting out of balance. So once your body starts getting out of balance, slowly, what can happen is you can start noticing small symptoms. It might be something all like something small like an occasional tummy ache, occasional bloating, or occasional dry or itchy skin, right? But then, if we don't look at correcting this, what can happen over time is that it can actually turn into a specific, like, diagnosed condition or disease. And that's when it gets like a little bit harder to treat. But that's where sort of Ayurveda works beautifully, because we look at again what's caused that imbalance. So let's try and bring that back so we can balance the body out like that. So a good starting point is just to know your own dosha, to understand your body type, to understand why you might crave certain foods, or why you might like a certain type of exercise, or why your personality is like that. And it's really beautiful if you have a family to do that, because it gives you a really good understanding of other members of your family and a bit more compassion for them as well, right? So, yeah.
For example, to beginners, to find out what their dosha is when they're born, you do a different questionnaire. Which type of question they can assume to see? So just to people that really don't know anything about it, they can
Yeah.
feel like, okay, this is why you've been asking.
Yeah. So, one important thing to remember when you do a dosha quiz, whether you do my quiz or anyone else's online, the most important thing to remember is you need to think of a time when you were at your healthiest. So if you do the dosha quiz for how you're feeling right now, like this week, this month, this year, it's not a good reflection of what the dosha or body type you're born with. So you have to go back to a time when you were healthiest. So when you answer the questions, answer them when we are healthiest. So for example, it might have a question of, how is your skin? Is it dry? Is it moist? Is it red? Whatever. Don't think of how your skin is now. How was it back then when you were healthiest? That could even be in your 20s or your teen years. And so they have certain questions are like for your physical appearances, and then other questions are more for like your digestion, how your body behaves, whether you like warmth or cold weather, those sorts of things. So it's a whole mix of question to capture everything.
So they take everything, they take all the skin and how you're feeling, your emotions,
Yes.
how you are. So that will give a really good understanding of
Yeah.
how you are you best. And then if the client come to see you, then we also see what's the imbalances. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then
Correct.
to
So when
bring
they
back
come
into
to me,
balance.
yes. So when they come to me, I can work out their dosha anyway. If they've done the quiz, that's great, but I can work it out anyway. And then what I do is I will assess them. My first consultation is about 90 minutes, because we go really, really deep into everything about them. Because we have to remember, at the end of the day, this is where Ayurveda is very different. We don't just look at one or two conditions and say, oh, this is the problem, so we have to fix this. We are a whole human being. We are a whole human being. Each of us are unique. We have individual lives as well, right? Like, so what happens in our life, in our lifestyle, with our family, with the stress levels at work, everything is going to affect our brain, our gut, our whole body. So this is where we really need to dive deep into every person. So when I do a one-on-one consultation, I look at what their doshas are, what their imbalances are, what the symptoms are, when did they start. And we go back and take history from years ago as well, because we are, at the end of the day, a sum of everything we're living through. So it's not just like, oh, I only have, for example, bloating. No, we need to actually look at everything else around that to try and fix it from the root cause, so they don't keep having it again and again. What we're trying not to do is to do just a band-aid. So what we're trying not to do is just to do a band-aid, but actually to go in deep.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. So once we assess that, also look at, sorry, I'll just finish this, what sort of food they're eating. I go through a detailed overview of their food, of how they're feeling, how they're sleeping, what their stress levels are, all of that. And then I come up with a very individualized and special plan that's going to suit them. And it always depends on the person, because if they've never heard of Ayurveda, they're very new, that's absolutely fine. We just start with something very simple. If they've done it before, we start at different levels, and everyone has different, the stage of life they're in, different, their time commitment or time that they have available to do is different. So I always say, let's make small sustainable changes. That's much, much more important to do that, so that you can keep it in the longer term and feel better.
So with you consultation, you do them in person or online? How do you
I do
process?
all of them online now. If someone lives in Adelaide and really wants an in person, I can, but I just find it easier, and people prefer it sometimes just to do it from their own home, so I do them online.
But also, like majority of the time, people come to see also a Ayurvedic practitioner when they feel sick, when is like the last
Yes,
result or so, because
yes.
usually they try different things and then they try Ayurveda for that. Would it be better
Yes.
actually, like you said also before, than if you're doing like knowing the dosha of yourself, of your kids, and have a bit of idea how the imbalance could happen, to know that
Yes.
like when they're young, so they have a really good idea of
Absolutely.
which type of food they should be eating to be at the top of their performance, and or if they start to see or have this problem with digestion or have a heartburn or things like that, then they will know
Yeah.
why they're doing this. Because I think sometimes
Absolutely.
with Ayurveda, it would be lovely then, yeah, like you said, all the family or your friends, they know what their dosha is and what the imbalance by eating certain food or doing excess exercise or things like that, how they can affect their body. So it would be interesting to even come to you, even though if they don't have an imbalance. But I guess we all much have an imbalance in our
We
body
all
nowadays.
have imbalances in our modern stressful life that you'd be hard to find a person in the world who doesn't have some sort of an imbalance or other. But yeah, absolutely. Prevention is always better than cure, and sort of understanding it right from the beginning. Really, you can sort of just understanding the concepts, trying to live by the simple concepts can actually just go a very long way, because you just stop, the rapid decline or rapid progress of the imbalances, so you can control them early on in your life.
Yeah, exactly. Do you do also say some conferencings and offering some? I think you're offering some cooking dishes or recipes or things like that, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So when I have one-on-one clients, if I'm asking them to do something specific, I do provide recipes and things. I also run a detox twice a year. I've just finished running one couple of weeks ago. So I run a detox twice a year as well. Yeah, the details on my website. The wait list is open so that when I start running it, people can join in. And in that, we do a beautiful 3-day do-it-yourself at home detox where people follow the recipes and we have a support group and community together. And that's a beautiful way as well to just get started with Ayurveda if you haven't done much of Ayurveda before. But yeah, like recipes and all are provided. Some really nice and beautiful simple tea recipes as well that are really great for the gut and very easy to make. I just believe that everything needs to be very easy because everyone's pretty busy in this world at the moment.
Yes. And is it possible also then you work with, of course, with, sometimes people discuss about the difference between Western medicine and then like more Ayurveda medicine. What is your intake? Like they can definitely work together as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I am always very clear. I'm not a medical doctor. My job is never to ask you not to take your medicine or medication or ever to suggest that you should stop taking them. That's really not my place. That's between you and your doctor, whoever my client is. My job is to kind of help you so that you feel healthier despite the medicine. And if you get to such a stage that you're feeling good, you go back to your doctor and the doctors decide that you don't need it or you need to drop the dose or whatever. That's it. That's my aim, right? Like, I'm not here to tell anyone not to take medications or any of that because that's really not my role. It's beyond my scope of practice. But I do support you. So if you're taking medications, one thing is I'll never ask you to stop the medication. So you can be very reassured about that. And sometimes people feel like, well, if I'm taking medication, I can't do Ayurveda. There's nothing like that because I will always ask. That's why I have a very detailed history that I do at the first session because I need to know what people are taking, if I'm offering something, if it's going to, interfere with that or any of that. And then my job is actually to also support you through whatever you're going, but also to support you in a very sustainable lifestyle and to help you sort of see the small things. And, there's some small principles in Ayurveda that are very simple, but once you start applying them, you can have quite dramatic effects in your life. So my job is actually to teach you those simple things and just to make you more self-aware as well. And a little bit of coaching as well to say, let's look at this option to see what works best for everyone. And
Very
I
good.
do specialize more in gut health and women's health as well. So, if you have some gut issues, then that's where I can come in because a lot of the time, for a lot of gut issues and other things, there are, even from the Western medicine perspective, there are no easy solutions or there are no solutions, or you might have to go on long-term medications, which can cause other complications. So then I try and help you resolve those gut issues so that you can go back to a doctor and then your doctor might say, okay, let's drop the dose on that because you don't need it because we've just increased the capacity of your gut to digest the food.
Yeah. And as for you were talking before that you went also to India and did
Hmm.
Panchakarma, isn't it? Could you explain what a little bit what's Panchakarma and what I can do for you and
My God.
What
Yeah.
when you finished it, what's bring to you? What did you learn from it? And how was your body
Yeah.
feel after the Panchakarma?
So Panchakarma is an incredible experience, and I really recommend everyone, especially every woman, should go and do it at least once in their life, and do it in a proper way, like in a proper place. So I've been to India twice for Panchakarma, um, and I went. I'm trying to think. It wasn't long ago, a year and a half ago. It was incredible. I went to a place in the south of India. It was a very traditional Panchakarma place. So it's a little bit like a hotel or resort, except that so you go there, everything you're looked after, like you get all the food, meals, everything. But it's not like a resort in the sense of like you can eat whatever you want. So the meals are the beautiful meals. They were organically grown in the garden next door. So the meals were incredible, really good on the digestion, the gut, all of that, right?
Is
But
it
obviously the meals
vegetarian meal
they're
or is
vegetarian, mostly vegan as well,
yep,
and they're mostly gluten free. So all of those irritants are kind of taken care of. And of course, if people have specific allergies or whatever, they look after them for that as well. And so you go there, you're assessed by a doctor on a regular basis, and then they design a plan for you. Like the first day you get there, they'll design a plan for you to see, they'll do a very detailed analysis of what the problems are, what you're struggling with, what your goals are, and then they'll design a plan for you, which involves obviously food. It involves also really powerful body treatments. So you get body treatments once or twice a day, depending on what you're there for. Beautiful. They have lovely therapists, and the body treatments are just so divine, like you're in heaven. Honestly, like
which
that
kind
is
of
one of.
body treatment you had?
So I had quite a few for what I needed, but a lot of them are oil based. Some are reducing inflammation in your body. Sometimes you have a two therapist treatment. So you have like a forehand oil massage. We use a lot of oils in Ayurveda because oils are very good carriers for the medicine. So they're medicinal oils. So they're applied on your body in certain ways, in certain direction. And then you can, after that, sometimes you're also taken like into like a steam box, I would say. So you steam your body so the oils get infused even more. There's so many, like there are so many different treatments in Ayurveda, and everyone will be given something different depending on what their body actually needs. And the treatment varies day to day as well. So you won't get the same treatment throughout your stay. And then you do a bit of a detoxification of your body as well. And then they start to help you like rebuild the nourishment in the body and the Agni. And honestly, Martine, like the last day that I was there when I was leaving, oh my God, I honestly felt like I was 10 years younger.
Oh,
Like
amazing.
the inflammation had disappeared, the joints were moving. I had been doing yoga the whole time I was there. So I felt so much stronger in my body. So we have like yoga sessions and they have meditation and breath work sessions. So it's really a very, very nourishing experience and nourishing time for you to just focus on yourself and your health. And then you have downtime during the day where you can just relax or read a book or, just because our mental load is so heavy, we don't even realize like how busy we are with being busy, how busy we are with work or family or running a business or whatever it is. And it's often many things. Like as women, we wear so many hats at the same time. Might be taking care of elderly parents, might have children, all of that. So you're sort of bombarded by every end. And that's why I really love the idea of actually doing a detox that's away from everyone. My detox is like I've done in India, and I think I will continue to do them there because you're completely disconnected. And you know what? My family survived fine. Everyone's family
Yeah.
survived fine if we're not around. And that is really the best kind of break you can give yourself while still getting healthy and, looking after yourself. And I think for the next 3 months, all my friends kept telling me how I was glowing from inside, like I was radiating light and glow because and it wasn't a very long detox either. So fingers crossed,
How
I'm
long was
hoping to
the
take a group of women with me this year as well.
oh, that would be amazing.
My detox was a little bit shorter because I was a little bit in a time crunch. So I think it was about 11 days. But ideally, you want to do at least, if you can, like 10 to 14 days is good. If you have lots of time, then 21 days is incredible. But if you don't have 21 days, then at least at the very minimum 10 to 12 days is
Mhm.
still it's still very effective. And of course, you have to remember when you come back home, you have to like keep up the good habits, try to follow some of the good things people have to do. Sorry about that. And keep that going as well.
Very good. And in your practice and the client you have, could you share an experience like a client came to you with a certain issue and then how they see the improvement and how everything went?
Yeah, I actually have so many stories, but let me think. Okay, I'll tell you this story of a lady who came to me. She was around 48, I think 48 or so, going through the, perimenopause stage of life, struggling with so many different things. Sleep was a huge one for her. Acidity was a big one. She used to get so much acidity every meal. And she was eating very healthy. She was a vegetarian. She didn't drink much, all of that. But, she was at that stage where every meal she ate, she got acidity. Then, as soon as she went to bed, there was reflux. So she couldn't sleep at night. So, then because of that, the exhaustion was low to the extent where she couldn't, like, even going for a walk was a bit of a struggle for her. So she came to see me and we said, okay, let's just do the deep dive, did a big history on her, deep dive on her. I suggested some simple changes and she was fantastic. She made those changes. She came back a month later and she was like, all right, give me more. I'm already feeling so much better. And, when she came to me, she said, I would just love to have, like not get aggravated after 2 sips of wine. She doesn't drink much wine, but she was like, once a week, I want to have 1 glass of red wine. Like, I can't even do that. So I was like, okay. And she was like, I need to go on a holiday, but I'm too scared to go because I'm always exhausted. I can't eat anything. And I'm thinking, am I going to have to take all my food with me? What's going to happen? So she was very distressed about the whole thing, which is very understandable when you constantly have acidity and you can't do anything. And I'm like, it was amazing. In less than 3 months, and she had had acidity for years. It was years. It wasn't a new thing that had turned up. In less than 3 months, we got to a stage where she was feeling so much better within herself. She went on a 4 or 6 weeks holiday. She sent me a photo enjoying a glass of red wine on her holiday. And she said, I did not get any acidity. Not that I'm saying everyone should be drinking wine or anything like that. But, if someone wants to have a glass of red wine once a week and they can't handle that and that's what they've come to me for, then that's an achievement for them, right? Because that's what they wanted to get to. And within like 5, 6 months, she's gone to a stage where she's joined a gym. She's exercising regularly. She just says, I feel like a whole different person. I feel like how I felt when I was younger, without all these perimenopause symptoms. Her sleep's improved. Her energy's improved. She's less grumpy with her family. Like, it's been a whole shift. And
Amazing.
if you look at the changes we made, yes, we made changes, but like they weren't like, let's give up eating everything good in the world and just, sit and meditate all day. There was nothing like that. She was already doing all the things right. It was a matter of also just going through it and seeing what are the things that are not working for her. So we made changes, but none of them are like so extreme or anything. But her results are so fantastic. That's what I love about Ayurveda, because it's just everything is so holistic and common sense that once you understand it, and now she knows what her triggers are. So when, when she goes out or whatever, or things start getting a little bit out of whack and she notices she's not feeling great, she knows exactly what her triggers are and what she needs to do to counteract them as well.
Which is amazing.
So
yeah,
yeah,
it's something
exactly.
they can grab it and then do it on their own afterwards.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. So in Ayurveda, of course, there is a lot to talk about, and in short amount of time, we can't talk about
Yes.
everything. But also, I wanted to know if you have, for example, you 3 ingredients or things then for you must have at home or everyone could have at home, and explaining why they're good, what they can do for someone, like just to, and then
Yeah,
3
sure.
habits of everyday habits they could implement in a day
Sure.
for their life.
So I think one, I would say I would have to be fresh ginger, which is easy, it's cheap, it's not expensive. Not the bottled ginger, that's not fresh ginger, I'm sorry. Fresh ginger, add it to your food, put it in hot water as a tea, add it to anything, add it to your chicken, to your lamb, to anything you want. It's so good in digestion. It helps so much with breaking down the food, absorbing the nutrition and digesting the food. I think like that's the number one thing that people should be using. Second one, I would have to say is ingredients, right? I would even say lemon juice, like fresh lemon. Squeeze that again in some hot water in summer, in tap water, whatever. Again, really, really great for digestion. So I'm all about digestion always. So that's also a really good ingredient. The third one I would say, and I'm going to generalize this into spices. So not chili, I'm not talking about chili, but just your normal kitchen spices, things like fennel seeds, things like turmeric, things like coriander seeds, or even your herbs, any of your herbs, basil, thyme, even the coriander. All these herbs have very high properties of, helping the body to, you don't need tons and tons, like you don't eat a herb as you eat cucumber, for example. So you only need a small amount, but they're very effective and very potent. And I think just getting into a habit of using a lot of herbs and spices in your daily cooking, whatever style of cooking you do, it doesn't matter whether you cook Asian style or, whatever type of food or cuisine, it doesn't matter. Just add more herbs and spices to it. And I think you'll see the digestion improve quickly. Now, the other thing you asked me were 3 daily habits.
Yes, please.
Okay. So I think number 1 would be, as soon as you get up, is not to have a tea or coffee, but actually to have a glass of warm water. If nothing else, have warm water. If you can make a little bit of an effort, add some fresh ginger, fresh lemon juice, maybe a squeeze of, good quality honey in it, and have that with warm water first thing in the morning.
What's that?
Really helps. So like a little bit of ginger, lemon, and honey in your warm water. Have that first thing in the morning instead of a tea or coffee.
What I will do in a body? Why they have to take?
So that's actually a really great way to start your morning, because when we wake up in the morning, our digestive fire or digestive capacity, we call it Agni in Ayurveda, is quite low. So that really helps us to boost the Agni quite a bit. So, we wake up and we've kind of given our metabolism a little boost in the morning.
Thank you.
The second thing would be to avoid a lot of cold foods on a daily basis, especially before or after a meal, because when you have something very cold, what it does is that it drops the temperature of the gut, and then it makes the food really difficult to digest. So just trying not to have too many cold foods, especially if you're in autumn or winter, to be very mindful of eating warm. And the third has to be the basic mantra of Ayurveda, which is eat warm cooked meals. Like that's our mantra: warm cooked, warm cooked. When in doubt, you're not sure, warm cooked. So those are the 3 daily living things, I would say.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Sona. Anything else you would like to add for today's interview? Then we have a
Yeah,
nice
I
talk
think
about.
no, just I feel like Ayurveda is such a beautiful science. I mean, if this has sparked your interest and someone even just starts reading a little bit more about, I think like you'll find it'll improve your life a lot, right? And it's just a very simple science. We follow the patterns of nature, we follow the patterns and seasons in our body, we follow the patterns and seasons all around us. So that's what makes it such a unique science. I think it's a very beautiful science. So hopefully this has sparked your interest. And yeah, you can find my details on my website, www.joyfulhealing.com.au. And I'm always very happy to hear from people if they have any questions or comments or anything at all.
Yeah, thank you, Sona. I know that's more like a short introduction of who you are, what you do, and Ayurveda is such a big topic. So we could just spend hours and hours talking about all the different
Yes.
aspects. But thank you for coming. I will put all your details under the description, as well as the quiz for anyone they want to click in and have a look at it. And also, if you had a client or they're watching the video, they want to put a comment or feedback on you, Sona, they are welcome as well. So thank you very much for being here today and sharing everything you do. And yeah, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Martin. It's been my absolute pleasure, and I really enjoyed doing this podcast with you. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sona. See you next time.
Thank you. See ya.